Hi, I'm Darcy Stockdale.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. Was I supposed to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
And today we're talking about deadly democracy. So Kelsey, I understand that you led this project, yes? In your own words, can you describe what deadly democracy is for those of you who haven't heard about our award-winning project?
Yeah. So Deadly Democracy was a national project, which is always really cool to say. I guess what it was trying to do is engage young people, young First Nations people in electoral engagement. So that's getting young people on the electoral roll, making sure that they understand what voting is, what it contributes to, what democracy is broadly, and why it's important, and the change that it can affect in communities and how the decisions that are made in Parliament and in policy sort of trickle down into community and how it affects things on the ground in community.
What was the beginning of this project?
Yeah, so the Australian Electoral Commission approached YLab and wanted to engage First Nations young people in electoral participation and came to us as a youth engagement organisation and a co-design organisation. They wanted to design a new program, a new project to reach young people, particularly young people in Indigenous communities across Australia. We co-designed with a group of young people back in 2021, was the first iteration of Deadly Democracy, a 2-day intensive workshop series on electoral engagement and participation, as well as upskilling young people in leadership skills. What that also entailed was visiting their local AEC offices and things like that. It started way back in 2021 with those first co-design projects and had that first iteration. Then come 2023, central to both iterations of the project, they wanted young people to stay in community, and we wanted young people to stay in community because quite often any kind of leadership opportunity, it's sort of framed to young people, particularly First Nations young people who are in remote and rural communities, that they have to leave their community to go and be upskilled.
Yeah.
But this project took a different approach in, philosophy, in that there is already skill available in community, and that lived experience of being in your own community was central to your knowledge and your understanding of democratic change.
Yeah, and so was it that perspective of the lived experience and having these young people stay in their communities what made it different to previous AEC engagement strategies?
I know that AEC does a lot of going out to community and explaining how elections work and spreading that electoral participation. What made this project different was it was specifically targeting young people and trying to empower young people in community to take up space in leadership and to take a bit more of a proactive approach to sharing knowledge about how elections work so that more people could participate in that kind of change.
Could you maybe touch on, I know that we've mentioned lived experience, could you maybe touch on the importance of lived experience when you're looking specifically at First Nations engagement?
You've probably heard a lot that when it comes to First Nations engagement, First Nations people, we're not a monolith. We have many, many cultures. It's across the whole continent.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to place-based lived experience, it is the people from those communities that know how to reach other people within their community. They know the general culture of the community, the general sort of ways people approach things and the way they think, the way they just walk down the street. So that's essential to when you're wanting to engage people in a big thing like voting in elections. You need to have that language and be able to relate to people to explain why it's important and how to do it.
And a lot of that came through the young people on the project as well. Could you maybe touch on their roles in delivering these workshops?
The idea of the 2023 Deadly Democracy was to provide young people with project management skills and design skills so that they could design a project themselves about engaging other young people in electoral participation. And so they were really encouraged to use that lived experience in their projects to create something that would speak to their communities and be impactful in their communities, as well as using their own skills that they had available. Like, we had a lot of young people very interested in art, and so they did like art-based projects. Some were like very good at facilitation, and so did like full like workshops and things like that. So we had like quite a variety. And so it was kind of like tapping into those skills that young people already had, while also providing a little bit more of that project management and sort of stakeholder engagement sort of perspective around building projects.
Yeah, so sort of like empowering and upskilling at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the language around deadly democracy says that it's culturally safe and reflective of community ideals. Could you maybe explain to somebody who hasn't encountered that type of language what being culturally respectful or culturally safe is?
That's a big question. When it comes to putting cultural safety into projects, you really need to have a lot of dialogue and strong relationship with the communities that you're working with. That's how you build cultural safety into the work that you're doing. And so, because First Nations people are very diverse, different communities are going to need different things in terms of cultural safety and what makes them feel safe and secure to engage with systems that are inherently harmful. A lot of what we did was working with the community partners that housed or like employed the young people directly, and to make sure that they felt that they had the right tools at their disposal to make sure that the young people felt good about the work that they were doing and good about engaging with us as an external non-Indigenous organisation as well, and that we had that trust with both the young people and the communities that they were in and the community organisations that they were working within as well. We also did this by making sure that we made the effort to travel out to communities. I feel like a lot of these big projects that are sort of bringing communities together in a way, because the internet is such a revelation, we can, Zoom from anywhere. But when it comes to the way First Nations people operate, First Nations ways of being, you have to be on country, you have to be out in community with people to build those relationships and connections. And so a big part of the project was us at YLab, in partnership with the AEC, travelling out to each community that we had young people employed for the project at, and having a bit of a design workshop with them, so that they felt that they were supported to do the work, and that they could also show us where they come from and what they're about and what their communities are about.
So whereabouts did you guys travel to?
We were up in Broome in WA, so up in Kimberleys. Then we were down in Geraldton, also in WA, because WA is the biggest state. It got 2 communities. We were also in Port Augusta in South Australia, which was also a very beautiful country. We were in Geelong in Victoria, which was just a train ride away. Yep. We were also in Sydney and Brisbane. Oh, and Townsville. Cannot forget Townsville.
Not meant to pick favourites, but do you have one?
You can't beat Broome. You get like that coastal, beautiful like sunset on the west coast, kind of small town vibes as well, red dirt country. It was just gorgeous, and gorgeous weather all year round. And
do you have a favourite project, or is that maybe a little bit too controversial?
I really don't think I could pick a favourite, because they were all really different. Even though there was a couple that were an artistic approach, they took very different directions. But just to name a few as well, we had one young person he called it a mangazine, and so it was a bit of a zine about what democracy is, what electoral engagement is, what it means to vote, how to enrol to vote. He did all the drawing and stuff like that, and so he put together this zine that he just made available in some places where people could just grab and pick up and be like, oh my god, this is so cool. we had another young person who reached out to a bunch of other young people who they asked, what's your understanding of democracy? What does democracy mean to you? What does making change for your community mean to you? And from those answers, she created a big art piece. We also had a few more like traditional projects where it was like going around to schools and doing like workshops around electoral engagement. They had like a mock election, which was really cool.
Do you know who won?
No, I can't remember who won. But they like ran like campaigns and stuff with like, because it was with the Queensland Cowboys. And so the women's NRL team, we got like some of their players to like do a bit of a campaign video and be like, vote for me. Yeah, and just like engage some of the kids that way. We had some sports-based ones as well. So it was like engaging young people through sport. Obviously, like a lot of communities, sports very prominent. That's usually like a lot of where community engagement happens around sport. It was just great. We also had a trivia night about electoral engagement, which was really cool.
So you've done all these amazing projects with different young people and in different places as well, like all across Australia. Do you have a moment from this project that you think of and you're like, wow, I'm just so proud of that?
I think it's hard to pick one moment, but I think for me, working as a First Nations change maker, I suppose, the part where I always feel like the most lit up is when I'm working directly with community. So I feel like the part that was like the best for me was when I was going out to communities and meeting those young people and hearing the ideas that they had and what they wanted to see happen in their communities, and just being like a part of their journey to making change. That's what I always feel most proud about.
Yeah, and you refer to yourself as a change maker. What is one word of advice to young First Nations people who want to make that change themselves?
I think usually when I give young people advice, it's usually about like annoying their representatives, annoying like anyone who will listen, annoying the organisations, and making sure that they're held accountable to what the change that they want to see. And that's usually where like the change making bug gets you, I suppose.
Yeah.
But in terms of like practical advice, I think I want to tell young people something about sustainability. Like, change does not happen overnight. Change is something that is a very long process, and you're going to need to look after yourself through it, because you're going to experience some hard knocks. You're going to experience some disappointments because someone's not going to agree or not going to give you the go-ahead with the change that you want to make. There's someone in a position of power that is not ready to relinquish that power to you. It's going to suck a lot of the time. And so my biggest advice would be making sure you're looking after yourself so that you can sustain the change you want to see over a long period of time.
And how do you look after yourself?
I spend a lot of time sleeping. Sleep is like essential.
Yeah.
But also like making sure you're engaging in community in whatever way that means to you. Like even if it's just friends and social stuff, or, you know, if that is getting involved in like your local election, that was also a big part of what we did, was like telling people, AEC, come election time, have jobs for you. You know, just like getting involved in something that fills your cup around community is always really good.
Well, thank you so much, Kelsey, for taking the time to chat today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for all of your fabulous insights.
You're so welcome.